All right, hello. Welcome to an impromptu Wednesday lunchtime live stream. So, as you can hear, I'm quite unwell. I've got the gift of Nurgle. I've just got over norovirus and also an extremely bad cold. So, do stick with me, and if I emerge into a coughing fit, forgive me. But here we are. Christmas has come early. It's a Wednesday, and the balanced data slate is here, so which is absolutely fantastic. So, very exciting. We have had our hopes and dreams arrive, and I am, of course, joking when I say that. But let's go through the changes. I think a lot of this was expected, and as I said, do forgive me whilst my voice is sounding absolutely awful. But yep, so Games Workshop has released the balanced data slate, which is obviously some points changes and also rule changes. And the headline summary for Astra Militarum is that we have been heavily adjusted. So now, again, as always, my channel covers everything Astra Militarum from lore, tactics like this, and also building, assembling, and kit bashing as well. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video and the focus, which is the balanced data slate. So firstly, some core rule changes. So this first one obviously has massive impact for us. Is any stratagems which allow you to arrive within 3 inches. This basically means it has to be 6. So across all armies, across all of the game, there's no more 3-inch arrival. So this will basically mean, particularly for us, rapid ingress can't be done within 3. And as we look at the equivalence data sheet in a second, this is called out more than just in here. Also, then one to pay attention to is any stratagems which worsen AP, in particular Armor of Contempt, now only applies to 1 attacking unit, as I believe it reads here. So this is very good for us, obviously, against Space Marines. No longer can you basically have a unit which has -1 AP across all attacking attacks. Is basically only 1 unit that does that. So each time an attack, it's just for 1 unit, I believe, is that one there. And if I've got anything wrong, please tell me, because I'm coming into this quite fresh and also still with a gift of Nurgle. Now, Astra Militarum's changes are basically here. So the key ones which have been made is crucially, obviously, in red here. So we can see, firstly, Lord Solar Leontis has called out. So the 3 orders can only be given to regiment and squadron units. So what this means is all other units you can no longer give orders to. So this obviously impacts our human friends, most notably Bolgrams and Ograms. And also it'll be all Titanic models such as Baneblade family miniatures. So this is pretty huge. It essentially means anything which isn't regiment or squadron is unbuffable by orders. So I think that's pretty bloody massive for those of you who don't play units with this. So obviously for competitive, will be Ograms and Bolgrams. And then for you, those of you who do play casually and play the larger models, you now have essentially no way to improve a Baneblade. So this is pretty massive, I would say, and really does put into question Lord Solar's existence now within lists. But I still think he has got merit, +1 CP. Every command phase for Astra Militarum and the ability to redeploy units is still very powerful. But we'll also see in a moment his point cost has gone up as well. So this is pretty huge for Lord Solar, particularly for Bolgrams, for me personally, and also for Ograms, which I know were coming into favour, given they're still quite cheap. Now the next is Tempestus Aquilans. As you can see here, in your movement phase, they can use his ability, and they must come in within 6 inches. So this, I think, was expected. I think 3-inch ingress, 3-inch deep strike was fundamentally not good for the game. Weren't the only ones who had this, but I think given you can squish in 10 dudes in a nice little conga line, which I was starting to do a lot, it made the game very unfun for your opponent. But still, 6-inch is obviously 3 inches shorter than 9-inch. So I think that the jank will still remain. It just will be less inhibitive to a good game for your opponents. Now, I'm still trying to understand what this means here in your movement phase. They can deep strike. Does this mean they can't ingress at all? I'm not sure what this means. I'm not very good at understanding the lawyer aspect of what's been written here. But the key takeaway for me is they can no longer 3-inch deep strike, only 6. But I still believe there's still good game to be had here. You can no longer easily movement block your opponent, lock them in Aquilon jail, but still 6-inch deep strike is still very powerful, in my opinion. And definitely over the games I've played, there definitely were scenarios where 6-inch deep strike would have been just as good as 3-inch deep strike. But yeah, so some pretty big changes to some key units. Lord Solar, who can no longer order Ograms, Bolgrams, and Titanic models, is pretty big as far as consideration of units is concerned. And at Aquilons, I think we're all seeing this coming. It was going to happen. Is that you can no longer 3-inch deep strike. And I'm trying to understand if this here basically means you can't ingress these models, because if that's the case, that also will significantly impact how you use them. So please, if you can give clarity on this, because again, I'll be very open when it comes to understanding the fine print of this type of thing. I'm not the best in understanding because often this is written quite weirdly. If they had just simply said you can't rapid ingress them, would have helped Jeff a lot, but that's not to be. So that is it for Guard as far as the actual rule changes are concerned. I think one positive to pull from this is that our army detachment rule hasn't changed. Yeah, so always look for the positives. Is that still this is a very good force multiplier. Lethal hits for vehicles into monsters and vehicles, and lethal hits for regiment into everything else is still very powerful. So don't forget that. Don't be too negatored by this. Definitely, this is still a very powerful rule. Into the right units is very, very good. So obviously, like the Tempestus Scion Death Blob is still very effective into infantry targets or non-monsters and vehicles. And likewise, Leman Russ battle tanks are still very good into monsters and vehicles. So that's the point. That's the rule changes. Let's just check the chat. If anybody's up early in the morning, or for me, yeah, good to see you, Star Captain. Also Toshiba. Yes, it is a random one. It's my lunch hour at work. So I'm going to get this done. Yeah, and someone said, I'll never be beaten. Just take tanks, blow everything up. That's absolutely right. So just keep it nice and simple. Cool. Now on to point changes. So let's put a drum roll and let's see what's come. So I'm sure you've seen already, but it's a sea of red. And basically, the synopsis here is everything that was taken in the most competitive lists has got more expensive. So I think what they've done, I think, was needed. Although the thing that really worries me, well, not worries me, but sort of disappoints me, is that a lot of our battle line has been increased. And we'll go for it in a second. So Cadian Shock, Jungle Fighters, Chimeras, Chimeras, call it whatever you want, Gaunt's Ghosts, Hellhounds, Lord Solar, Ogrins, but the 6-man blob, Tempest, Aquilons, and also Scions, and Forge War units are untouched. So everything that was appearing in winning tournament lists has got more expensive. Now, again, the highs and lows of being a top meta army is that in the most recent statistics, Guard was nailing it. We're coming third from a win percentage point of view in the competitive scene and also in the tournament, in the casual scene. And Guard were winning tournaments and placing in the top 3. And even Jeff last weekend came second in an RT. So my best performance ever out of 22 players, that is. I came second. So we were doing very, very well. Let me give a sip of water. So it said the battle line units, Cadian Shock, 60 to 65. Catagen Jungles from 55 to 65. But then infantry squads have been untouched, staying at 60 points wherever they are. And then also Def Corps have also stayed at 65 points. So infantry squads now the cheapest. Catagen Jungle Fighters now are just as expensive as Cadian Shock and Def Corps. So with that in mind, now, like in my list, I was running 4 Catagen Jungle Fighters. I'll now probably just run 2 because Scout Move is still very effective. But I would say with Caddy and Shock, I struggle to think of a role for them. Objective Sticky is still helpful. As I say that out loud, I probably will keep still 1 Caddy and Shock, 2 Jungle Fighters. But do you basically maybe just bin that off and go with Death Core? Because 3 special weapons, heal D3 models back in your command phase is decent. And at 60 points, the infantry squad, which can take a mortar, which is the key thing, is still decent. But I think we needed this. Definitely in all the games I've played 6 games since in the last, well, actually, the last, probably 8 games I've won every single one, which is not normal for Jeff, let's be very clear. But definitely what was winning me those games was the battle line units. So I think we needed to be adjusted in the battle line units. Catagen going up by 10 is a lot. I don't think that was warranted. I think a 5-point increase, because all you're paying for here is a scout move, really. 2 flamers, is that as good as other stuff? I don't know. But this feels quite heavy-handed. Now, Caddy and Shock, I don't know if we needed that, but broadly speaking, I think them doing this to battle line was required. Now, as I said, the idea of spamming Jungle Fighters at 55 points is dead. Now the only time you're going to really use Jungle Fighters will be for the Scout move in the Scout Mera package. Now, Scout Mera package has also been impacted, so we've gone from 70 points to 85 points for Chimeras is significant. That's a big increase, and I think where the differential now occurs is the differential between a Chimera, Chimera, call it whatever you want, and a Taurox is now 20 points. Previously, it was only 5. This now is material. The point change between a Taurox and a Chimera is now, do you basically have a Scout Taurox? Basically take Jungle Fighters and a Taurox as opposed to a Chimera and a Taurox. I think now potentially that does have merit to consider. 20 points less for these 2 models does feel like a good trade-off. The Taurox has basically no weapons. It's got a twin-linked autocannon and a Storm Bolter, which is nothing compared to 2 Flamers, Lasgun Array, and Heavy Stubber. But given it is 20 points cheaper, and also from a gameplay point of view, the Taurox is a physically smaller model, means he can sneak into much more sneaky places, is maybe now the combination is Catagen Jungle Fighters in a Taurox, which is a bit disappointing. The Taurox is bloody ugly, in my opinion. Go buy a wheeled kit. I got that, looks quite nice now. But definitely this has really heavily impacted the Scout Mera package, because that means obviously a Scout Mera with Jungle Fighters, and that has gone up by 25 points, obviously. So it is a material change. You could offset that by basically taking a Taurox instead. So you basically wash out most of the point increase by doing that if you drop to a Taurox. So yeah, it's pretty tasty for battle line. As said, Def Corps stayed the same. That's positive. Infantry squads have stayed the same. That's also positive. So if you're not going for the Scout move, you will just basically downgrade to infantry squads. But I still think a Scout moving Chimera or a Taurox has good play. But maybe the change is from a Chimera to a Taurox. Okay, next is then Gaunt's Ghost, a 10-point increase. I personally didn't use them much because for my baby brain, I found having to basically constantly pick them up and drop them down probably wasn't something I could manage in a gameplay point of view. I'm too simplistic. Now 110. What else costs 110? Okay, Tempestus Aquilins. Well, Scions are more expensive now. The Kalidas Assassin, I think, costs about the same. So this feels okay, but I don't think it was maybe needed. They definitely aren't a unit which just does loads of damage. It's more mission play, but yeah, that's not nice. Now Hellhounds plus 10 to 125. They're still a good unit, 2+ save, toughness 10. With their flaming, they can be quite nasty, but in the overall scheme of things, and I'll reflect on my point increase in my list in a second, It's almost like a death by 1,000 cuts here. A lot of stuff has got more expensive. Let's just check the chat. Has anybody got a perspective? Okay, couple of perspectives. Yeah, the time for autocannon spam on the Hydra. Yeah, good point. So the Hydra I've seen has obviously got some merit out there. John Lennon famously took it in the Warhammer Champs, so done very, very well. Yeah, Scout Mera. Yeah, maybe Scout Taurox. Yeah. Just looking, anybody got any? Rust Spam Meta, maybe. I think the thing with Rust Spam is if you're playing competitively, what do you score with? I don't know. Russes definitely aren't guaranteed to destroy everything. So that's something to think about. And yeah, okay. Yeah, Aquilons can deep strike 6 into the movement phase. Yeah, cool. Okay, so they can't do it in rapid ingress. Okay, cool. Right, next, back on, what are we looking at? So then it's on to, okay, Lord Solar. So this, I think, was a long time coming. He felt very good at 125. Now, 150, I don't know how he compares to other characters out there, but this feels expensive now. Given he can't buff, as said in the balanced data slate, he can't buff Ogrims and Bolgrams. He can't buff basically Forge War units. Is this the death of Lord Solar? Maybe. I think +1 OC in your command phase is still very good. It's very reliable, obviously. And being able to redeploy 3 units before the game begins is also very helpful. And he can issue 3 orders. That's still very good. Now, I'm sure there'll be some debate out there. Do you just bin him off for tank commanders? Tank commanders stay the same. But I still think he's a good unit, personally. I probably will still keep him because it's still the powerful data sheet. But sure, we have to test. Is 25 points someone to sort of remove him from your sheet, your army list as well. Now, as said, Ogrims, interestingly, the big blob has gone up by 10. The mini blob has stayed the same. I don't know. I mean, it's weird they made them cheaper, now made them more expensive for 6. As said, given they can't be buffed at all by Solar, I think, I don't know. I'm not sure now with Abhumans. Likewise, Bolgrams, they have stayed the same, which is good. I was keeping 3, just 3, because, they're still decent. But given you can't make him hit on 2s and melee, just like with the Ogrims, you can't give him +3 movement. You can't make the Ogrims hit on 3s in the shooting phase. This is probably, I don't know, maybe it's just like the death of Abhuman models. I mean, they're still good Ogrims, yeah. Their Ripper guns are fantastic, but hitting on 4s is not reliable. You all know that. They don't get lethals. So yeah, I think it's, I don't know. I'm really not sure about Ogrims. I wasn't personally a big fan. They're obviously good for output, shooting output, but you've got lots of other stuff that does it just as well. Scions, Living Rust battle tanks, and they get lethal hits. I think personally, this is the death of Abhumans. Ogrims, more expensive with the big blob. Bolgrams can't get orders. I probably am going to drop them from my list. And definitely, as I've matured, I'm finding that I can probably achieve what they could do for a battle line. So maybe you just spam Deathcore. Deathcore are very good. And now it's almost like everything else is more expensive. They're equally as good as everything else now. So, I don't know. I'm not sure about this. And I don't think Ogrims needed to be touched, personally. But it is what it is. Now, what else has changed? Let's have a look. Okay, it's just on to our Tempestus friends. So, okay, I think we can all agree 90 points for 10 Aquilons was ridiculous. It was just crazy good. So 110 feels fair. It's the same as the Kazkin. Combined with a 6-inch deep strike, I still will take 2. Given you can't, according to the wording, you can't ingress them. That's something to be considered. But I think 110, it's fine. It's fine for Aquilons. 6-inch deep strike is still fantastic. It can still set up movement blocks. You can still sort of Aquilon prison your opponent. And 110 feels fair, yeah. But let's be honest, because you can still drop them in and do flamer twice. So here's the actual data slate. Here's the actual balance. Here's the actual data sheet. And yeah, you can say new movement phase, they can deep strike and do so within 6 inches. And the central weapon can still shoot twice, essentially. So, there's still a good data sheet, but 110, maybe you reconsider, just go with one, and maybe bring back Kazkin. Yeah. Now, what I think is concerning is the Tempesta signs have now gone up to 60, and I think they've gone from 60 to 50 to 60. So it's all funny how it all evolves. But this obviously means that the Scion Mega Blob has got 20 points more expensive. Crucially, the command squad for Tempesta Signs has remained the same, but this is becoming quite expensive, and does make me question personally the use of 5. 60 points for mission play. Do you just bin them off and go for some battle line, like you go for an infantry squad, put them in reinforcements, and that they're the ones who come in from reinforcements to do your sort of like weird action play ones or engage all fronts. Cool, let's check the chat for any more perspectives, and I'm struggling with my voice, so do forgive me. Okay, so John's saying Aquilons can't rapid ingress at all, so... but they can in 9-inch. Yeah, cool, okay. Yep, and we're going to get onto that. Booker 8991, the Ratling data sheet also has been updated. We'll come to that as well. So yeah, so as far as the balanced data slate is concerned, I'm going to keep this quite quick because I need to have lunch and go back to work, would you believe? But we've been nerfed. Definitely, we've been nerfed, absolutely. Let's all agreed. It's nerfmas for Astra Militarum. I think, yeah, Lord Solar, that's a big change. Aquilons, that was coming. And for my list, which I've won a lot of games with, and again, this for me is huge. I've won like the last 8 games, which for Jeff is massive. That's my best ever, like for me personally. Is my list is now 165 points more expensive because I basically take Cadian Shock, 4 Jungle Fighters, a Scout, a Chimera, a Hellhound, a Lord Solar, 2 Tempestus Aquilons, a 10-man of Scions, and a 5-man of Scions. So my list has got extremely more expensive. That's a 16.5% percentage point increase in cost, obviously. So that's huge. So I think we needed this. You can be quite salty because if you've been playing Guard for many years, like I have since 2018, obviously as the factions become more powerful, all the top players rushed into it, drove the win rates up. They're now all going to leave, and all us legacy players will have to basically find a way to make it work. But that being said, I still think the army is in a very, very good place. As I said, our detachment rule is still great. Yeah, it's still a very powerful detachment rule. It's a force multiplier. I do think, as I said, this is the death of Bolgrams and Ograms. Maybe Ograms still have a place, but I'm going to bin off Bolgrams completely from my list. I've only got 3 left, so they're going to come out. So as one of you joked in the chat, I think it will be back to good old-fashioned Astra Militarum, which is going to be battle line units, which are more expensive, loads of tanks, some flavor of Scions to be used, and sort of just sprinklings around the edges to keep us going. Right, and the last one is, as said in the chat, is the Ratling. So weirdly, this is in the app, not the actual index, which is bizarre. Okay, this is reflective of the new Kill Team box, and the big thing here is not as broken at all as Aquilon. So I was hoping they're going to get something super fancy and exciting here, but they're not. So unfortunately, they're going to be probably a little bit better than what they were before. So I'm not sure if you can see, but their point cost is 60 for 5, 120 for 10. So interestingly, unlike the Aquilons, you can actually split this. So this is good. And probably actually the reason why I've done this is given you can still buy the 5 metal miniatures or the 10 super fancy cool looking dudes in plastic for Kill Team, is you've got options. Now, crucially, all of this stuff here has remained the same. There's still 6-inch move, toughness 2, 6 up save, leadership 8. So they're just made of tissue paper. Now you can see the inclusion of a new weapon, basically the sniper rifle, there's no change. Tank stopper rifle is basically a sexy looking autocannon. Actually, no, it's way better than autocannon. It's 9 3d6, pretty tasty. Heavy, could hit 2. I've duplicated that twice, so forgive me. But basically, then their abilities is infiltrate, stealth, and shoot, scarp, and I think I've actually missed one thing. I had missed one point, actually, forgive me in the chat, but I do remember what it is. I can actually tell you. So, yeah, so you still got the 6-inch move. So basically, when you shoot, they can basically move. So you pop out, shoot, and move back. So it's basically phantasm, and you can't declare a charge. So it's only in your shooting phase. Yeah. So if you do Overwatch, you can't do anything like that. Now, the thing I'm missing here, which I know what it is basically for the mutt, the doggo you can take, is once per game you can give yourself lethal hits in the shooting phase. Now, that's cool, but not game breaking. So I'm very confident that one is basically you have a little doggo token, a little dog, and once per game you can get lethal hits. Now, that would be on 10 dudes, so you're basically hoping for 10 sixes. Is that powerful? I don't really think so. And the tank stopper rifle can only be taken if you take basically 10 models. So are Ratlings broken? Absolutely not. Basically, they're no change if you take the 5-man. 60 points. They can move, shoot, and move. But if you take 10, you get a 1 tank stopper rifle, which is basically 9 3d6. It loses precision. And basically, once per game, you can get lethal hits, which is cute. So definitely they're not busted. They're not great either. I don't think they really will go into many lists. Personally, what's your perspective? Let me know in the chat and also any comments. But what I'm really looking forward to, which obviously isn't addressed here, is going to be other Death Corps engineers, because they're going to infiltrate. I think also scout. If they get that, that'll be a very powerful combination. But that's Ratlings. The snapshot is they're not busted. They're not game breaking. But it's good to see their rules have got something. So let me just check the chat for any perspectives on Ratlings. So, yeah, cool. Okay. So, look, I'm going to say goodbye because it is my lunch. I need to go back to work. But this is short and sweet. So I would definitely say that Guard have been nerfed for Christmas. Our dreams have all come true. I'm joking. This was expected. This is a pretty big nerf. Let's be honest. As I said, my list has got 17% more expensive. But I did take all the good stuff. So definitely from a competitive point of view, I do expect Guard to drop down the win rates. But that said, I still think the faction is overall in a fine place. Let's not get too negative with this. It's easy to get quite negator. Everything that has happened was expected, with probably the only one being Lord Solar. I wasn't expecting that. I don't think Bolgrams and Adhumans, Ogres were busted. Not anymore. But this was expected. So, Merry Christmas. Let's not get too down. The army still is in a very good place. But now we need to spend the next couple of months sort of adjusting and sort of seeing what we can do. But on the flip side of that, with the Codex due very soon, maybe I think we can just all hang up our hats and take it pretty chill out before that comes, because that's probably going to come, and let's hope, for pre-sale in January, which means we'll get a Codex probably in February. So onwards and upwards. So thank you all for joining, for those of you that could, in my impromptu Wednesday morning live chat. Merry Christmas to all of you. Hopefully you don't have the gift of Nurgle like I do, but let's keep fighting the good fight. So super thanks to all the Patreons and channel members. And as always, if you want to support my channel, you can do so with a like, comment, or by subscribing, becoming a channel member, or joining my Patreon platoon. As I said, I'm a true variety hub of Astra Militarum, cover everything from the tactics, lore, and also hobby aspects. So all the best, Merry Christmas, and chat to you later. Cheers.